It's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, this is Ivy Slater. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. We're doing an amazing series right now. It's all about women leaders in the law. Right? And so we're going to be speaking to a lot of different women leaders in various aspects of the legal field. You're going to get a chance to learn about them, to learn about what drove them to do what they do, and how it has been being a women leader in the law field. My guest today is Paige Zandri. She is the founding partner of Artese Zandri PLLC. And I always have to make sure I say the names correctly with all the letters. This is legal stuff. You got to do this right. So I do read this very carefully. Paige's firm really focuses on highly contested divorces, prenuptials, postnuptial agreements. Paige and I met years ago through an organization called Women Own Law, and we've gotten to know each other. We've worked together in a variety of ways, and I've truly admired the firm she has built and the work she does and the passion she brings to it. So when we decided to do this year's series, I'm going to be completely honest. The first call I did is, Paige, help me. So Paige, thank you for helping out, and thank you for helping me build this together.
Truly a pleasure, Ivy. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
So you've been working in what I'll refer to as family law, or divorce law, mediation, this whole area of law for over a dozen years now, right?
Yeah.
And you have a strong past experience and expertise in tax.
Correct. Right. Yes.
The last thing I think about, I'll be completely honest with you, is somebody in tax and then somebody working this people-oriented, truly when you're working with a highly contested divorce and mediation and all of that. How did one thing come to the other? I have to know the backstory. I don't know if I ever asked you that in all the years we've known each other.
It's such a pure illustration of this internal conflict. I'm constantly trying to balance between a very pragmatic and analytical side of the brain and then also a very emotional and relationship-oriented side of me. And so early on in law school, I pursued tax law heavily. I wanted to be involved in the numbers. I was influenced by my parents in two different ways. So my father was also an accountant, and he always told me, follow the money. I don't know if I understood exactly what he meant at the time, but
we don't necessarily get that as a kid. But as we grow up, and the accountant person, right? That accountant truly follows the money. And I agree, you follow the numbers.
That's right. Yeah. And that has been so valuable. And it was my mom, maybe not surprisingly, although at the time I really didn't think she understood me that well. She would say, I think you're going to be a divorce lawyer. You would make a great divorce lawyer. And this was before I'd even decided on law school. So it's really interesting looking back how visionary both of my parents were, and how well they understood me more than I did myself. Because after I graduated law school, I was at Deloitte. I was in a tax consulting practice group, and it became clear to me in less than a year at Deloitte that I was really not having the experience with our clients that I wanted. I was not touching them deeply. I was not in communication with them in a meaningful way. And I really wanted that experience. I really wanted to have that connection in my work and in the people that I was working for. So I left Deloitte and I went out as a solo. I made a full leap from tax consulting to family law. And
that is a full leap. It's truly like jumping off a trampoline or a high wire, or I can't even put a visual to that. Completely,
I've had to reconcile that. Yeah.
Right. That's completely, I could see going from tax to possibly business. I could see from to a lot of different areas, but tax to family, I'll be honest, it takes guts. And then to go out on your own.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it certainly took some planning. I understood that I could run a business as a family lawyer because I had witnessed and observed other graduates and other practitioners who were doing that in family law. And really my process was that I reached out to my alumni directory at my law school. I specifically looked for solo practitioners because I knew that was how I was going to get my start. I took a leap, right? So much of where I am today is just taking a leap and asking for help. And I cold emailed, I think there were six. The alumni directory at Brooklyn Law School brought up, I think, six results of practitioners who met this criteria, right? Solo
Right.
practitioner, practicing in New York City, family law. And I emailed all of them, and one person responded, and that person became my mentor. It was a very mutually beneficial experience. He was a solo. I was able to offer some support staff, associate level services while
Right.
I went
So
to
that
court.
started build it. So gave you something to build income, right? We have to do this.
Exactly.
You have to survive,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
So you
And then
were
it was
able
a
to
little
build
rinse
income and learn.
and learn and learn. And once I was able to do that, things flowed, things followed, right? I did a little bit of like rinse and repeat. I found a couple of other solo practitioners who needed a little more support, and I was able to provide them with contract services while I was learning the game, right? And then ultimately, within less than 2 years, I was taking my own clients and it was off to the races, really.
How did you start getting your own clients? What were some of the things you did? Because, sometimes we don't talk about that. Like those first 5 or 10 clients are like,
Yeah.
wow. Once it starts flowing, it's great. But those first few that come in, how was that for you? What did you do?
Yeah, a few things. So, starting any business, right? You have to evaluate the lowest hanging fruit. And so I would say I really just looked around at the friends that I made at law school, my personal relationships. I put up a website and I had something to hand to people to let them know what I was doing. And really, so much of in the work that I do, so much of it is personal. There's a 50-50 chance that someone I run into in the supermarket or someone I talk to
Somebody knows somebody who knows some.
who's getting divorced. Yeah, that's right. And so it was that. And it was very much also getting involved in some organizations that I knew were professionally aligned with what I was doing.
From starting solo, what drove you to then build a firm? Because there's different thoughts and methodologies that people think through. So,
Yeah,
what was your driving force to, gee, I'm doing okay, I'm making a living.
right.
Now I'm going to build a firm. Like, where was that driving factor? What was that wake up call for you?
Yeah, there were two equally driving forces. One was that I became well aware of what I was good at and what I was not as good at. And I really needed someone with the skills I didn't have to do some of the things that I don't do, and
Okay.
be able to focus on the things I do well. And so just to put concrete description on what I'm saying, I'm not a litigator, right? I am more of a transactional lawyer. I'm a certified mediator. And I realized very quickly that I didn't have the training, nor did I really desire to seek the training to become a litigator. So that
Okay.
became a little bit of like, if you were doing a SWOT analysis, like an opportunity and kind of a threat, you know?
Correct.
Yeah. And then on the a more organizational dynamic side, I'm a team player. I really missed working on a team.
You missed working with people.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's been like far and away one of the most rewarding parts of having a firm now.
How would you and Lauren end up connecting to make this happen?
I just feel so lucky. This is one of the examples where like your success does include some element of luck, right? So
Yeah.
My partner Lauren and I went to law school together. We were very fortunate to find each other early on, along with a group of a few other women, and we all became close friends and we relied on each other. And one
Okay.
of the ways we relied on each other was through sort of like the downtime, the personal wellness side. And we would prepare family meals because most of us we had left our homes, left our families, and we were in this law school life that was completely different than anything we had experienced before. So we would come together on Sundays, and Lauren and I really took that seriously. We now understand very well how family oriented we are, which influences so much of what we do. And so we became very close in law school. And then, much like my background, Lauren has a background from the district attorney's office in Brooklyn, in Kings
Okay.
County. Lauren is a courtroom attorney. She believes in the justice system, really like internally. It flows through her veins, it flows through her blood, and she's so talented at it. She's a natural. And so you can tell where I'm headed in terms of like how our partnership
Uh,
came together. But she also was not planning on being a family lawyer. So
Of
that's
course
where
not.
the
What?
luck comes in. That's where I got very lucky because Lauren, separately, we actually after law school, our lives took us in different directions. We lost touch for several years.
Right.
And then I became a family law practitioner and she became a family law practitioner. And all of a sudden we had a matter together and we learned that this is what, oh my God, you're doing this too. And it was not right away. It was several years later that we decided to come together, and several years and several happy hours of us like flirting with the idea and then deciding
Talking it
finally,
through, truly
yeah,
talking it through. And we think about so much that when you're in an intimate relationship that you date, right? And then you date a little bit
yes.
more and then you spend more time together and then you might live together and then sometimes you get married, right? We don't think about partnerships in the same way. And I think there's a miss there because I think
Yeah.
it is. You do need to date, you do need to have enough experiences together before you truly marry in a business.
I couldn't agree more. And part of the reason I was a solo was because I did not consider myself someone who had the ability to trust another person
Mm.
to that degree on a business level. And I have to say, I don't know even still that if Lauren told me today, I want to do something else, I don't know that I would take on another partner. It is a marriage. It is unconditional love. It is all of the things that you experience in an intimate relationship.
I'm glad we're like touching on this a little bit because I've had various partners in my early, as a printer. And
Yeah.
I will say, I don't think enough people who go into partnership realize that it's the good, the bad, and the ugly of a marriage.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
When you have to talk finances, and I'll put that in quotes, when you talk the money,
Yeah.
people come from different money stories in their background. People
Oh
come
yeah.
from, various beliefs in a variety of different ways. And to me, the bottom line is we spend more time daily talking to our business partners most of the time than we ever talk to our spouses.
That is very, very true. So Laura and I have been together 6 years, 6.5 years. She knows every detail, every, and again, like so fortunate to be able
Yeah.
to have that.
So let me ask you, in building the firm and building it first solo and then, creating a
Mhm.
partnership, a true growing firm because you have other support, you have staff and attorneys, you have a full-size firm at this point. What has surprised you in this process?
I mean, every day I feel like I learn something new, like a baby. Yeah. What has surprised me, I think, the most is how long it takes to build a team that meets your company and culture goals. That is such a challenge. That is something that Lauren and I go back to over and over. And I have to say, like, we started our firm with a mission statement. And that mission statement included being considered like best firm to work for, even if we were always going to be a small boutique size firm. It is our priority for our employees to feel valued and to feel like our firm is run like a family. And some people will tell us that, that's not the best business practice. It's important to us. And that's hard, right? Because boundaries are important at work.
Yeah.
And so striking that balance, we say we're the parents to make sure that we're parenting properly and teaching and giving constructive, valuable feedback, and also making sure our employees feel loved and they feel valued and they are excited and they want to share, and we know about each other's lives and we know your parents' names, your siblings' names, your children's names. Like, that's the firm we want to build. And it's very hard because we start by loving everyone. And so we've had to figure out how to be the tough parent, how to give tough love, and how to grow a team with patience, with care, with compassion and discipline.
Sometimes I think about, as we grow teams, etc., we think about the stages of children, right?
Hmm.
Toddlers need structure, right? Babies
Hmm.
need structure. In my opinion, not everybody agrees with me, but I'm the person who believes and thrives on structure. When I parented little young ones, or my
Yeah.
granddaughter, right? It's structure. It's structure. A lot of love and boundaries, and
Yeah.
teaching that responsibility, right? What you're responsible for, how this works.
Oh, yeah.
Let's switch this up a little bit. We met through an organization called Women Own Law a bunch of years ago. We both attended a few things, and
Yeah.
then you jumped in with like 2 feet, and you're on the board, you're head of programming, you're leading the symposium that's coming up. What drove you to find the time, right? Because there's one
Mm-hmm.
thing to say, this is a good organization, I'm going to go to their events. There's another thing to find and create, truthfully, the time to get in and get involved in leadership. And that's a dedication. What drove you there with Women Own Law?
I was introduced to women-owned law from another woman lawyer, obviously, whom I admire and respect. And when she suggested women-owned law, I was just starting out, and I had shared that I really missed that sort of team
Yeah.
atmosphere. So this is when I was on my own. It just as you said, I joined. And the reason I was very excited, and I am still very excited about women-owned law, is because several years prior, when I was just starting out on my own, I was invited to a very informal women's networking group that disbanded because the woman who founded it her life ended up taking her a different direction, and
Okay.
no one took the helm after
Nobody took the
she
lead.
left. And so that one time a month that I got together with these women, and we didn't get together to talk so much about the work we were doing. We got together just to be a support network for one another, to talk about like how hard it is to do this thing and balance all of the different priorities that women, and I'll say that, like, as women, I think we do more. I think we're responsible for more. It was just a support network
You're
that
not bringing anything to my light that I don't know.
yeah. We're responsible for more.
Hello.
Whether that's, how much we ask for it, that's a different conversation.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. And whether we're responsible for more or whether we take on more, I will never diss men because I think they show up 100%. We have to be in this journey together to good in the world and have an impact in the world, et cetera, et cetera. And we have female leaders are here today because of the fabulous male allies we have had.
We all have value, yes.
Whether we have more, whether we take on more, however it occurs, I'm just going to say more, there's more.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like I said, my mentor, I wouldn't be here without his generosity, without his
Right.
guidance, without that person stepping into my life in such a meaningful way. But this particular group, we trusted each other almost immediately because of that personal relationship we all shared together. And that translated into business
Yeah.
in a way that, like, there nothing else that I was doing created more more referrals for me than that network of women. And I never forgot that. So when I was introduced to women owned law, selfishly, I said, okay, this is where I'm going to recreate that experience. And as soon as I got involved, the first thing I did was go to the annual symposium in Philadelphia. I can't tell you the energy in that room. Immediately, I said, I want to be a part of this. I can remember thinking, even if it always comes back to food, right? Even if I sponsor the food, I want to be a part of it.
That's why you and I get along so well.
Yes, it is a huge part of my identity. And so when I joined Women on Law, I firmly believe that you have to take on leadership
Mhm.
positions if you want to make a difference. And I just found small ways to continue doing that. I had ideas. My ideas were well received. I really enjoy the experience of working with all of the women at Women on Law and building something together. It is so exciting to see the scaffolding is up. Now the walls are up, the roof is on, and that's been over the course of 4 or 5 years. And we can see what we're building. And it's just been such a rewarding experience.
I have to say, when I went to my first Woman on Law event and I walked away, I'm like, I can hang with these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my number one, my really like my number one. The first thing I do is when I do a new networking experience, is I will say, do I like the people? Do I actually want to hang out with these
Yeah.
people? And
Yes.
I have
Yes.
made so many really good friendships. There's numerous times that like we get together for whatever events and they don't necessarily disperse because there's women who enjoy other women.
Yeah.
And that's really what drove me to keep getting more involved and say yes and raise my hair and say,
Absolutely.
I'll do this. I'd love to make it. Yeah. Oh, this sounds great. I'm happy to. Complete honesty. I don't dread the meetings. I look
I
forward
don't
to
dread the
them because
meetings.
I
Yeah.
like the people.
Isn't that
It's
such
not,
a
I'm not
wonderful
dragging
thing?
myself anywhere. I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. I get to do, I get to
Yes.
see.
Yes. And isn't that such a wonderful thing because our time is so limited. So to actually be able to enjoy the people. And that's the thing, right? The thing is with Women on Law, you want to be in that room. You see the people, you see their backgrounds, you see what they're doing, you see the influence they're having on the people around them. And you can't help but feel like I got to be a part of that.
Yeah.
You know?
So, Paige, if you could share one tip forward from your learning experience, and there's been so many in taking the guts and transitioning truly different career trajectories, going solo to building a firm, what would be one tip for our listeners that you would share forward?
Curiosity is, I think, the mindset that leads to opportunities, to growth, to a fulfilled life, and to overall success. I think that's one aspect of how I've approached things that has really proven to work well for me is to be curious, to ask questions, to find out more, and then to take what you learn and take the responses that you get and curate that to your own individuality, right? So casting a wide net and then carefully selecting what works for you and running with it and trusting the process is more than one thing, but I think in continuity, all of those things together makes it so that the outcome is less important than the journey. If that can be your guidepost, your guiding light, your North Star in your journey, the outcome will be fine. The outcome will make you happy. And it's just how you get there that's important.
Well, Paige Zandri, thank you for joining me today on Her Success Story. I truly appreciate you taking your time out of what I know to be a very busy schedule.
Such
Um,
an honor to be here, Ivy. Thank you.
and listeners, I'll always say at this point in our show, take a deep breath in. It just feels so good, and it doesn't take us long to take a moment and breathe. Identify one thing you took away from today's interview, from today's conversation, more so between Paige and I. What was that one takeaway for you? Jot it down somewhere. I don't care if it's a phone, if it's a piece of paper, whatever your thing is, it's all good. But here's the important piece: make the decision of the one action you're going to take from that takeaway. I encourage you as you join in with us every week on Her Success Story and you take away one action, you will build a momentum for your fulfillment, your growth, in whatever that may be. And it's all about you. So thank you. If this was helpful, if this is meaningful, please share this forward with others you know. And I will see you next week as we continue this series on women leaders in the law. Thank you, Paige, for joining us.
It's a pleasure.